This is the inaugural Food Bank Tableau User Group meeting. I am very excited about this. I believe this has been something a lot of you in the Tableau and data world in the food bank space have wanted for a while. So I'll talk a little bit about kind of how it started and then, what it means to be a member of a Tableau user group. So we'll all, about where this group is going, what we want to gain from the group. There's going to be a section on how you can be more involved. And then content-wise, we're going to talk a little bit about some of the new features of Tableau Desktop 2024.2, which was released just a couple of weeks ago. There's a lot of new things, but I just want to highlight some that I think are more relevant to us. And then we're going to hear some use cases from some of us. I'll start with a few screenshots of dashboards I've built for us, and then we'll hear from Josh Green and Tammy. If your mic is working by then, of course, we'd love to hear from you. If not, we'll certainly get you in on another meeting for sure. Just a real quick introduction for me. I'm digital marketing and data specialist at Feeding the Gulf Coast in Mobile, Alabama. I've been with the food bank for about 4.5 years. Most of my career has been in the digital marketing space, but the last 3 years here at the food bank, I've been able to use Tableau to really drive our use of data. Our CEO back then, who's still our CEO now, really wanted us to get a better hold of our data, the collection of it, making sure it's clean. And then the biggest priority for him that he tasked me with was making it more accessible to staff. So in networking and talking with a lot of you, we were in the same boat of we'd ask a certain department for, a number, some data, and it was just very difficult to get. You may get 3 or 4 different answers depending on who you ask and when you ask. And it wasn't like we were asking anything complicated. It was just basic, KPIs, basic numbers we needed. How many pounds distributed in this county last year or whatever. That information was for us before we started using Tableau. It was very hard to get. So Tableau has really enabled us to make it much easier to get that data and to keep it organized for all of our staff. So that's a little bit about me. Let's talk about what a Tableau user group is. In short, it allows us to learn, connect, and ultimately inspire each other. These are community-led groups. They are Tableau supported groups. So no one here is a Salesforce or Tableau employee. They do not direct our content, but they do support us as community members, which is really awesome because it opens the doors for really networking, meeting other Tableau users, other data professionals in the space, and it's going to give us an opportunity to have some pretty cool speakers we're working on. So it's really awesome to have the support of a company like Tableau behind our user group. So what are we about? Obviously, the name Food Bank Tableau User Group really is focused on those of us who work in the food bank space or any hunger relief organization and use Tableau or work with data. Ultimately, the goal is just to network, learn from each other. Like I said, this really started from my desire just to meet other people who are using Tableau. I'm still new to it, and it was really helpful for me to meet other food bankers who use it. I was able to learn so much from a few that I've met at a couple of different conferences. And so I wanted to start a group where we could just all connect together. There was nothing out there already. If you're a member of the Feeding America Network, you are familiar with Yammer. There was nothing on Yammer specifically for Tableau. And so a huge shout out to the Mike Snow, who's Tableau account executive for nonprofits. He kind of made some connections for me at Capital Area Food Bank. They were also kind of looking for a group like this. And so it started out as a Slack community and now is officially a Tableau user group. The QR code there will allow you to join the Slack community. I think most of you are probably already in there, but if you're not, please join. That's how we're going to stay connected and share content or share frustrations or get ideas in between meetings and that sort of thing. And then be sure to join the official Tableau User Group so that you're a member. Being a member will get you those email notifications whenever there's new events and that sort of thing. Speaking of events, Tableau kind of requires a minimum of one per quarter, so I think that's doable. Again, we'll have some good content, guest speakers, and it doesn't matter if you're an advanced user or beginner at Tableau. I really think you'll find a lot of value in being a member of this Tableau user group. I told you there's ways to get involved. If you're as excited about this as I am, there are ways to get more involved. The first is a little selfish, but I do need some help with this. I would love to have a co-leader, possibly two, for the Food Bank Tableau user group. We can, if you're interested, please send me a message in Slack or email me. My email's there, cgivens@feedingthegulfcoast.org. And we can certainly have that conversation. But basically, you'll just help me with generating content, running the meetings, finding speakers, and that sort of thing. Starting early next year, there should be an opportunity for us to get some Tableau branded swag items. So I'll need help with that as well. So again, just reach out if you're interested and want to learn more. It is a bit of a time commitment, but it's really not too much. Like I said, one meeting per quarter, I think is doable for sure. The second way you can be more involved is to present during one of our meetings. It doesn't have to be anything, new and innovative. It can just be a Tableau tip, something that you figured out that you think is interesting and could help all of us. It could be a how-to or just an interesting use case. It could also be maybe you have a problem. You're trying to figure out how to best represent data. You could present on that and get feedback from the group. I think it's really important that we all speak, all of us as members share it with each other. And I think that's the best way to learn. I just know I can speak from my personal experience. Being able to network is so vital for me in my learning of Tableau and how best to use it. So again, if you're interested in speaking, presenting something, send me a message in Slack, or you can email me as well, and we can go from there. All right, we'll dive into some content, some new things in 2024.2, which, like I said, was just released a couple of weeks ago. There's a lot of things. Like I said, I'm going to highlight just a few that I think are interesting time-wise. That'll help us as well. Some of these are updates for Tableau Cloud. So if you're part of the Feeding America network, you know that they manage the cloud. So some of these they may have to implement, and we may not have control over that. I do know, I've heard that they are looking at some of the features like Tableau Pulse. I believe something like a feature like that does have to be enabled at the server cloud level. So some of those exciting things we may have to wait on, but there's a couple that I think are really interesting. The first, in full disclosure, I have not had a chance to play with this feature yet, but this is essentially what they call multi-fact relationships, a way to bring in tables and have the dimensions shared. So dimensions such as geography and time can have a relationship. I know working with multiple data sources is something we deal with a lot as food bankers. And so I'm hoping that this can simplify that. If you've used this, I'd be really curious to know what your experience is, positive or negative. But I'm hoping it can help in that bringing in multiple data sources. Oftentimes, the data source we bring in, the fiscal year and the dates may not match up with our internal ones. So that can get quite complicated. And I'm hoping that this feature maybe makes that a little more simple for us. The second is probably my personal favorite. This is Viz extensions. So in the new update for desktop, you can much more easily build more complex and unique charts like the one you see here. This is a Sankey diagram, which is my personal favorite way to visualize data. I think it's really interesting, and depending on the data you have, it can be really helpful. This was possible before Viz extensions, but it required a lot of custom calculations, a lot of mathematical calculations, and I spent a long time going through a tutorial on how to do it. And it, in my experience, it didn't work quite as I wanted it to. It was kind of clunky. It did not look this nice. The other way before Viz extensions you could do this was through what they call extensions. Tableau has had extensions for a while. These are third-party apps that allow you to build things like a Sankey much easier. That was really cool. The only problem with that is you could not publish it to the server unless you added the URL to the server safe list, which is something Feeding America, in my case, had to do. I worked with one of their team members, the data and analytics team members, and he was awesome. He got it working, and it was great. All that aside, with the new update, Viz extensions fixes all that. So you can build a Sankey diagram literally in minutes. I posted one in Slack if you want to check that out. It took me just a few minutes to build it, published it to the server, no problem. It shows. So much easier to do. I will say there's not a lot of customization options for this particular one. So I'm hoping they build that out in future versions. So it's also worth noting this was a top voted idea on the Tableau community forum. So a lot of people have been asking this for a long time. So there's a few other nice updates on cloud and server. I'm very excited about that. Individual control formatting, I'm also very excited about. So if you have, say, a dashboard with 3 or 4 different filters or parameters, you can now control the formatting for those individually as opposed to it applying to all of them. And then the last one here is local file saving. This is for Tableau Desktop Public. So if you're not aware, there's Tableau Desktop, which I'm sure most of you use and are familiar with, but there's also another software called Tableau Desktop Public. It's free. You do not have to have a license to use it. So it's a great option. And now you can locally save your Tableau workbook files through Tableau Public, which is really nice. All right, we're going to look at a few screens, some dashboards I've built. Just FYI, I cannot see the chat right now, but I will switch back once we switch over to Josh's presentation just to see if there's any questions or issues in the chat. So like I said, I've been using Tableau for about 3 years now. This is the current version of what we originally I was originally tasked to build, which was just a distribution dashboard. This is what you're looking at here is at our agency level. So you can think of this as like an agency profile. Any of our anywhere between 600 and 800 unique agency locations in a year are all accessible through this little profile dashboard. As you can see, it shows various data, different KPIs in the 4 little squares at the top. All of this came from feedback meeting with our agency relations staff, our operations staff on what kind of data they wanted. This is the result of that. Different filters, of course, to select whatever you want, and then navigation buttons on the left to show some other views, one of which is our county and state level dashboards. These are currently undergoing a design change to look more in line with this. I'll just be very honest and transparent. A lot of the KPIs and graphs you see on these are just not useful. I think they're cool because I spent a lot of time building them, but in talking with our staff and the people who actually use the dashboards, they don't find them useful. So I'm working with them to learn from them what they do need, and then kind of redesigning it just to be a little more aesthetically pleasing and actually have graphs and data that they can use. So, but these are great. The one on the left is the county analysis. The most important one that's used is that top chart. You see the blue bar with the orange line on top. That's our MPIN analysis. So most of you in the Feeding America network probably familiar with MPIN. This just allows us to very quickly see where we are in any county with our MPIN goals. And then the one on the right, of course, is at the highest level, the state level. We serve 3 states, Alabama, Florida, and Mississippi. So that dashboard there just shows that high level. This was, something that is a good example where this is data that lots of different departments need, not just operations, not just our CEO, but marketing, development, grants. They all need to know this information. And before we really implemented Tableau, it was just very difficult, like I said, to get that information. So now they have viewer licenses. They can just go in, click whatever state, and see where we are. Or look back in the past. I have data going back to 2017. So the last two I'll show screenshots of is our retail analysis dashboard. These have been the most used in the last several months. They've undergone the most changes as well, just design-wise and data-wise as well. These are used by our retail staff, so different stores that we partner with, of course, that donate their food. The one on the left kind of gives a high-level overview based on what's called the banner. So this particular screenshot shows all of our target stores that donate to us. And you can see the various KPIs that they wanted. They wanted year to date. They wanted current month, current year compared to current month, previous year. Data like that is what they wanted to see. So I was able to build that for them. And then the one on the right shows individual stores. Similar to our agency one, this is very much the same, but for individual stores. So our retail staff can pull up any store in our service area that donates to us and can see the various data points. They can see the trends, how much they've donated. They can compare that to that store's monthly goal just to see where they are. This has been really powerful too for that department. They can actually show this data to that store manager, which has been really helpful so that the store managers can be more invested in our mission and can really see the impact they're having. So, all right, we're going to jump now to our first presenter, Josh Green. I'm going to check the chat real quick, but Josh, feel free to jump in. Just give us an introduction, who you are, kind of how you came to use Tableau, and then I have some screenshots he's going to show us.
Cool. Yeah. Hi, everybody. My name is Josh Green. I'm the operations director at the Food Bank for Larimer County in Loveland, Colorado. I've been at the Food Bank almost 10 years. And as a disclaimer, I am not a data person. I have no training at all in data or statistics or analytics, but I do love numbers, and I am a total Excel nerd. And so Tableau seems like the logical next gateway drug for me to get into in my data journey. Similar to what Caleb was saying, we have had metrics that we've tracked for a really long time, and we've had incredibly unreliable ways to calculate those. Oftentimes those calculations were stored in the heads of the people that pulled them every month, and if that person was gone or turned over, then the methodology for that calculation was lost. In some cases that was really problematic for us. So as long as I've been here, I've been on a mission to kind of clean up our data, to revise the way we think about and work with data. And up until about a year or two ago, that was all focused on Excel. So we built out some pretty comprehensive Excel dashboards that were a little bit more bulletproof than previous ones, with kind of hidden sheets and other sheets that pulled data through. But I dreamed of a day when anyone could go in and look at information and understand it and also not be able to mess it up. And that is exactly what Tableau has done for us. So I'm a big Tableau fan these days. You can go to the next slide, Caleb. We used Tableau for kind of three different things. I recognize you won't be able to read probably any of the labels or numbers on these dashboards or on these screenshots, but that's okay. They're kind of more for a visual representation anyway. The three things we use our dashboards for are, first of all, like ongoing key metric reporting, right? So that's unduplicated individuals served, that's agency pounds, that's agency product fees, that's distributions by zip code. It's like those kinds of things that we're tracking on an ongoing basis to understand the kind of the operational health of our organization. The second is kind of more periodic reporting. So we've got dashboards that pull out numbers from series to give to finance for the calculating the TFAP and CSFP administrative reimbursements, right? We've got dashboards that we look at on an annual basis that are just pulling out our key overall annual KPIs that are meant to be like a point in time representation of what we did for that time period. And then the third thing is kind of like a very strategic analysis of a specific decision, right? So looking at historical data in a way that we don't need to track on an ongoing basis, that we just need to understand, right now, okay, what does the last, 6 to 9 months look like? Or what is the true impact of this program? And should we continue to Can you also hear me?
Hey, I think we lost Josh. Am I the only one or no?
No, I think that I think you did lose me. Can you hear me again?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay, great. Yeah, my cable that connects all my peripherals to my computer, I think, is a little on the way back out.
Uh-oh.
So anyway, I'll try not to bump it again. So I was talking about, this third way is really to look at specific programs. Should we continue to invest in them? Or even making decisions like when so during COVID, we eliminated all shared maintenance fees for our agencies. We still charged cost on purchase product. On some purchase product, we also had grants that were purchasing product for agencies that we distributed at no cost. But we definitely had, we stopped charging any fees on donated product. A couple of years after COVID, I think it was 2022, we were looking at the inquiry of our board, we were looking at, is it maybe time to bring some of those shared maintenance fees back? And I was able to very, very quickly pull together a dashboard that looked at what would be the real life financial impact of those shared maintenance fees on our agencies, given their current distributions by category. And I structured it in a way that it could be printed out for each agency to show them, here's what you're paying on average for each of these different product types, so that if we did decide to bring them back, we could automatically pivot that into a tool to help our agencies understand what the financial impact would be to them. And the power of seeing that information displayed so visually for our board and the rest of our executive team was such that they immediately realized that though this would have a minor positive financial impact for us, the negative impact it would have to our agencies was far outweighed, the benefits for us. And so it went from maybe this is something we should explore to absolutely not, we don't need to do this. And that was because of glancing at one visualization for 15 seconds. So that's pretty cool. So this first dashboard I've got pulled up right now is it's one that I put together that looked at our curbside delivery program. During COVID, so let me back up a little bit. We as a food bank operate two very, very large brick and mortar pantries in our service area. One is up in Fort Collins. The other is about 45 minutes south in Loveland. During COVID, we pivoted to make those drive-through so that we weren't having people in the building. Each of those pantries serves on average 300 to 400 families every day, 5 days a week. Having those people inside the store during COVID was obviously not an option, but we knew we needed to continue serving the community. And so we switched overnight to a drive-through distribution model In October of 2021, we went back inside, but we kept a drive-through option available for people using the order ahead platform through Feeding America. The reason being, we were aware that some people still were not comfortable coming inside. There were people who were immunocompromised who literally could not come inside, and we wanted to maintain that option. But what we started to hear anecdotally from our teams that were operating that curbside program in tandem with the inside client choice shopping is that the program was pretty underutilized. There were a lot of orders that were placed and not picked up, and that a ton of people that were just finding out about us for the first time would place an order thinking that's the only way they could get food. And when they came to pick it up, they realized they could shop inside for themselves, and they left the order and went and shopped inside. And so anecdotal information doesn't always transfer to what's actually happening. We as humans are really, really bad at getting like factual information correct when it comes to our feelings. And so I pulled in information from the order ahead program just through an export. I pulled in information from series and from link to feed. And I built this dashboard which showed us the rate of orders that were not picked up. So that's what you're seeing in that green line on the top visualization. The purple circle is orders placed. The pink square is orders picked up. So orders, completed. And you can see that's definitely trending upward as time went by, which is not a great sign. And then the bottom is looking at percentage of visits so that we can compare that to percentage of staff time. So what we found is that order ahead visits, so curbside pickup visits, equated to less than 1% of our overall visits at both locations, but it was taking more than 5% of staff time. So from a labor standpoint, that doesn't make sense, especially if the trend is going up, that people are not actually picking up these orders. So again, this was another thing where it was like, okay, I think we should discontinue this program. Here's the data. It's based on real facts, and it was a very easy decision to make. Let me go to the next one, Kilo. Another instance of this is we operate our pantries Tuesday through Saturday. Nobody likes working on a Saturday, especially in the afternoon in the summer. So we have staff saying, well, we're really not seeing that many visits like in the afternoons on Saturday. So it's like, okay, well, let's pull in link to feed data and let's look at frequency of visits across the week. Yes, you can see that very obviously based on the depth of the color that Saturday afternoon slot is slower. But when we are able to hover over that with the tooltip and show the leadership team and the teams that are actually doing this, if we stop serving at noon on Saturdays like you're wanting to do, we're going to miss 300 families a week. These might be 300 families that cannot get here any other time of the day or week, and so we really need to stay open. It's been really helpful in just shifting the perception and illustrating why it's important for us to stay open on those days. You go to the next one, Caleb. As he's switching, something else that's been really, I think, transformative for us about Tableau is the ability to iterate. I think that probably most of you on this call understand kind of how Tableau works, at least on a base level, and that it's very easy to quickly build complex visualizations. If you have your data sources set up the right way, it's very easy to build complex visualizations that tell a story and that can actually answer as many questions as you come up with from looking at the preliminary work. So I think that has been really, really useful in the sense that it's like, okay, I have this idea and then I can quickly translate that into a visualization to demonstrate based on the data what is actually happening. This was a new utilization for us this year. We used Tableau to forecast some of our budgeting. So specifically, we looked at landed costs for products, for donated products across different product types. We looked at agency pounds, we looked at visitation trends, and we used the forecasting feature in Tableau to kind of gut check, or we used that and then we used our own projections to gut check, okay, where does this fall? And what we found is that the projections were very much in line with what we had come up with on our own, which was a great way to validate that based on the data trends, that we're in the right frame of mind for how we're looking at what our next fiscal year looks like. Also very interesting to look at this in the context of freight rates, so landed cost per pound on products shipped across the country. We did not bring any modeling of projected freight cost from the industry. We overlaid them, but we didn't bring it into Tableau, but that was also really helpful. Next slide, Caleb. Something else we're seeing right now, which is kind of an interesting trend, is, and again, this started with anecdotal reports from our teams on the ground. We wanted to understand the scope of the problem, is visitation at our pantries from people that live outside of our service area. So we are a one county food bank. We are neighbored on all sides by other counties, obviously. Our neighboring county to the east is Weld County. It's one of the largest agricultural producing counties in the United States. It's also very, very poor. And we were hearing reports from our teams at our pantry locations that they were seeing a large number of new applicants from Weld County. We do track address information and link to feed, and so they were able to see very clearly that, oh, these are people that live in Greeley, which is kind of the big metropolitan center. It's barely a metropolitan center, but the big city center in Weld County. We were seeing zip codes from outside of Larimer, and so we pulled in our link to feed data. We looked at zip codes and specific addresses. We were able to map them and understand as a percentage of overall visits how many of these people are coming from outside of Larimer County and what counties are they coming from. More than that, we were able to also look at frequency of visitation. So are these people visiting once and then not again? Are they visiting on a recurring basis? What's really happening? And this is something that we are tracking on a regular basis now. This dashboard is updated monthly. We're working on direct connections with Series and with Link to Feed through the Link to Feed API and through integrating directly with Series so that we have more real-time information. But right now it's manually updated by me. So we're tracking this monthly and looking at, okay, yes, this is still trending upward. We're still seeing more and more clients from outside of our service area, and then we get to decide what to do with it, right? So we actually sent out a paper survey to the addresses of individuals that are living in Weld County and visiting us to understand, are you aware of the services available closer to home? What is it that's bringing you into Larimer County to shop? Is it experience at our pantry? Is it food selection? Is it language barrier? Or do you just happen to work in Larimer County and live in Weld County because it's cheaper to live there? What's happening? What's bringing you here? And we're just starting to get those surveys back, and then we'll run an analysis of that. And then it's probably a communication with that food bank to understand what are they seeing. So that's been really neat too. Next one, and I think this will probably be one of my last. So this is another example of one of the dashboards that we track on an ongoing basis. This is just our agency dashboard. So agencies only they only account for about 20-25% of our overall pounds distributed. The rest is going out directly to individuals via our pantries or mobile pantries, but agencies are still a huge part of what we do. So we wanted to understand, where are they serving? What are our gaps? So that's what our map up above is looking at distribution by agency zip code. So this doesn't necessarily show where they're distributing food to, but it does show where they're based. And what our zip code coverage is like in our county. We've got our just a listing of agency pounds, which is that green and purple bar graph right under the map. And then we've got a growth table that's showing what percentage of growth are our agencies experiencing, so we can filter by that and identify which agencies are growing more, which ones are actually shrinking. And then we've got our pounds per month and our shared maintenance, our agency product fees per month. So again, that's not it's shared maintenance in the true sense of the word, because it's not on purchased product, but it is on purchased. It's on agency revenue, basically. The line is the actual, and then that big gray block is what we projected in our budget for that month. So that's been a cool way to compare as well. And then we've got just kind of the top line metrics up at the top. The data through window right next to the posting date is something that's new. And I added that because these are manually updated so that anyone looking at the dashboard can see, oh, we've got data through this date, which I think has been really helpful. So next slide. And then this is just a quick look at our landed cost per pound that we pulled in from Series. This looks at, by month, what is the spread of cost on different product types. So these are all donated products. This is looking at, it's not all donated, but it looks at donated compared to purchased to see really what is the spread on landed cost. And that's particularly interesting, I think, the box and whisker plot, with the colors kind of in the middle on the left side there, looking at the wide variety of landed cost per pound on produce, which is in yellow, is really fascinating. And then on the by month view over on the bottom right, looking at how that changes seasonally, was really interesting too. So yeah, that's what I got.
Man, that's awesome. Thank you so much. Yeah. Real quick, I think I gave everyone here presenter access, so I think you should all now be able to come off mute. Please don't yet. There will be an opportunity later. But yeah, that was really amazing. I think it's interesting. Like I said, one of the things I'm really excited about this group is just selfishly for me being able to learn, and I think it's so cool. You serve one county, but just in the few minutes we serve 24, but just in the few minutes you've talked, I've learned like many things I've written down, ideas. So that just, it doesn't matter if you serve one county or 24 or 50. There's so much that we can learn from each other. So your point about Excel was hit a little too close to home. That is like one of the main motivations, specifically with our retail dashboards I showed. Our director of operations did some pretty cool data viz stuff in Excel spreadsheets, but it's just so hard to look at. And just the interface, the aesthetics, also trying to build it, make sure it's accurate. So transferring that into Tableau has been really helpful for us. I just love a lot of what you're doing. It sounds like two things stood out to me. You said a few times, and I'm paraphrasing, like so and so or this department or this group of people said this, but then we actually checked it with data. And I love that. You said, your staff is saying, well, we're just not seeing that many people on Saturdays. Okay, let's check.
Right.
Comparatively, yes, we're not, as you said, but not many people, 300 families, that's a lot.
Right.
Compared to the 5 or 6 or 700 on a Tuesday, yes, it's less, but that's still people. And that was my second point, is that I really love what you're doing with data, is that you're using it to really make sure you're helping your community, making sure people who are in need get what they need, and making sure your agencies, your partners, have everything they need. So yeah, that was really, really cool. Great stuff. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Does anybody have any questions? And then we'll move on to Tammy, who's going to present. I believe, Tammy, you should now have the ability to use your microphone. Oh, there was a question. Lots of compliments for Josh in the chat. Somebody did ask, Matthew Hansen, why don't they find those useful? I think this was referencing something I mentioned on the screenshots I showed. It's a good question. It came from, I was tasked with just building dashboards to show our data, and that was kind of it. So I was kind of left to my own, free will to decide what to show. And as I learned about data viz and Tableau and its capabilities, I just kind of picked what I thought would be useful. Maybe I'll go back to some of those screenshots. Like an example is, so on the left is our county analysis. In the middle, you'll see a viz that's called Spark Lines. So this is just a really, it's a lot of data. So it's every county we serve, split into 3 columns by state, but it's just a quick view, like a trend, for year to date. So you're not going to be able to do an in-depth analysis on this. I thought it would be interesting and useful, but it took me talking to people who use this dashboard to find that is not necessarily something they need or want. Maybe it will keep it and just kind of hide it using a parameter where they can switch between something. Another example is the top left. You'll see pounds distributed since 2017. Again, I thought maybe that would be useful. I don't work in operations. That's not really useful information to them. So that's something that's, taking up space, where we could put something that is more useful. So to your point, I think, you ask what can we learn from our colleagues, and use those as principles for building dashboards that they do like. And it's exactly that. It's meeting with the stakeholders, if you will, the people who are actually using the dashboards. If that's your CEO, have a meeting with your CEO. If that's your operations team, meet with them on a regular basis. Is something I'd love to talk about at another one of these group meetings, is how all of us do that. For me, we started what we just call Data Corner. It's just meetings where we look at the dashboards and talk about, what's working, what's not working, making sure staff knows how to access them, making sure your staff knows how to read the charts and everything. But really, for us as the ones that are building the dashboards, it's understanding what they want. That's been really key, and something I've had to do just to make sure that the KPIs that show the numbers, the data, the charts are all ones that they'll find useful. So very good stuff. Let's go next to Tammy. Is your mic working?
I don't know. Is it?
Yes, it is. Awesome.
Yay!
Take it away.
Okay, so my name's Tammy Jackson, and I've been with Golden Harvest about 27 years. And the last few years, I've been the data analyst, but my entire career, I've really been very involved in making reports and tracking things and cleaning up data, and been the series guru person. So um, was very excited when Feeding America first built the relationship with Tableau, because I love to see things visually. And Kev, if you want to go to the next slide, please. So what you see here is something I've created, and it says all service table. These are all the questions that we ask our agencies monthly. And then on the left, you see all the agencies. And if this was live, you'd be able to use the scroll bar to go down. And basically, I built this, and you've got some filters along the top. This is built sort of what Josh had talked about earlier, a bulletproof way of providing people an Excel spreadsheet. So they can look at this, they can filter it. One of the filters is responsible person code. This would be the staff person in charge. They all have a certain number of agencies that they're in charge of, so they could just filter on their agencies and then import it into Excel. Because some people are a little gun shy of Excel when you've got formulas and things like that. They're afraid that they're going to mess it up. And this way, as Josh said, it's bulletproof. They can download it. One of the things that I'm finding is I'm the primary user of Tableau at my food bank. There's a handful of people that use, we have quite a few people with licenses, and everybody can download things and use Tableau Reader, but very few people actually do it. They ask me to do it and send them screenshots and vizzes and tables from what I've built. And I'm very excited about this group, because I'm hoping to learn from the more experienced food banks on how to cross over to that next step where people are actually using this themselves. Next slide, please. This one, and you probably can't read it, but on the right-hand column, it says data refreshed, date by. I stole that from the wonderful Feeding America folks on their MDS. Found it really useful because I do have to refresh this manually. And this way, everybody knows instantly how up to date it is. And we serve 25 counties in 2 different states. So we're finding it's very interesting, and we just switched to her. So in the top box on the right, you're looking at our product on hand, pounds and quantity, by the different groups of the her rankings. And then on the left, you can see the darker It's the two-tone bar graph is showing the difference between South Carolina and Georgia. And of course, you can click on that. You can click on July and see the total amount, or you can click on, like the gray and see what's just in South Carolina. There's no filters on this page. It's just an infograph. Again, very few people actually use this the way I envision them to so far, but a lot of people have asked me to send them the screenshots and the PowerPoint and things like that for it. Next slide, please. This is one that my boss, Amy, our president, asked me for, where she wanted to be able to look at a more detailed look of how the product is going out with the meals. Is it going through our partner agencies, our senior hunger programs, and things like that? Just, how little a percentage, although these are important programs like Child Hunger Program, overall it's a very tiny percentage of what we're doing. And on the left is a map of our service area, again with the percentages. And if you're using this live, you can hover over a particular county and see a lot more detail of what's on there. But again, very few people are using this. It is what they've asked me for, and they do ask me to use and present it and send it to them, but they haven't been using it themselves very much. And then the next slide, please. This one is sort of the same concept where you see the bar charts. They're split between South Carolina and Georgia. And these 4 rankings, agency enabled, dairy, produce, USDA, these are key areas that my president, Amy, specifically asked me for with the receipts. The bottom section is just showing a historic graph of the receipts. And then, of course, you've got the, for the monthly historic. And then the box on the left is just showing simple annual pounds. And one of the things that came up, my biggest thing has been something I'm getting better and better at viewing my job as I need to present what my customers want, not what I want. And I'm finding that what my customers want are simpler and simpler and simpler. Hopefully that will lead to getting more complex and using it. I haven't shown any, but one of the things that I think is really ironic is I'm constantly asked, and some of the most popular things I send out are pie charts. And everything I've read talks about how pie charts are not the way to go, and they are difficult to really grasp percentages and things like that. And yet, a lot of my customers really like the pie charts, and therefore that's what I need to make. So that's been a learning curve for me. That I need to concentrate not on what I like or what I think are useful, but asking people what they like and what they find useful. And finally, my all-time favorite dashboard is what Feeding America created, the member data sharing dashboard. There's several reasons I think first of all, it's a great product, but because the basic shape and view has not changed over the last couple years, everybody at my organization is really, really used to seeing them. And so what you're seeing here are a couple of screenshots from things we sent out on our on the staff info TV boards that we have at all our locations, and from a Microsoft Teams chat. And you can't read it, but where you see the little box with the yellow and green on the left, where it says, hey, we hit one and missed one for June. Because everybody's so used to seeing the entire member data sharing dashboard, this is from the executive view on the top, they instantly know what this is. And to me, it just gives a wealth of information. On the left side of it, it's showing how we did year to date against receipts and distribution pounds. And then the chart where you see the yellow and the green bar chart and the little black line, that's showing our progress to our strategic plan goal for receipts and for distributions. And the MDS lets us look at our performance to our strategic plan goals instantly, against month, against quarters, against year. It's the favorite tool of our executive team, and we just use it constantly. And again, I think what I've seen over the last couple years is because we're using the exact same format, people are getting very comfortable with it and they just recognize it instantly. And it's been a learning curve for me because I'm realizing that I'm not helping anybody by redesigning my dashboards, every few months, when I think, oh, well, I can do this better or I can do that better. But in reality, what works best is, even if it's not a great design, is staying with the same format so that people learn it and get comfortable with it. And a shout out to my boss. Her nickname is Wonder Woman, so that's why you see the little lasso of truth Wonder Woman holding when we're talking about these numbers don't lie. And I think that's it. Right, Caleb?
Yeah, love it. Yep, that's it. That's
Short and
good
sweet.
stuff. Yeah. No, thank you so much. I love that how you're sharing that. You said you put that up on the staff TV. That's a really great way to share data and get people involved, who otherwise may not be involved in data. And I don't know if you saw in the chat, but I think a lot of people understand your frustrations with getting people to actually use what you're building. Yeah, Josh mentioned he could certainly share. I think honestly, that's a great topic for one of these meetings. It's like how we do that. Yeah, so lots of stuff to take away from there. I do like too. You said you're building what they asked for, even though they're not using it. But I think that's kudos to you for that idea of listening to what the end users need, what they want to see, and then going from there. I'm in the same boat like you. I just kind of started with what I thought would be cool, like, oh, spark lines are cool, or trellis charts are cool, or a Sankey diagram is cool. But then my end users are like, I have no idea what I'm looking at. So trying to find that balance of useful viz, but one that they can read and they'll actually use. So
yeah, and I do want to backtrack. So when I've built things, well, I do have one success story, but then she left the company. But she's not a technical person. I worked with really hard. I built her dashboards that I thought were just terrible, but she loved. She was in development and she went out and used them all the time. But I do want to back up. People are using what I create, but they're not using them by like diving in and playing with the data themselves.
yeah,
They're having me send it to them
yes,
as views and things like that. So that's what I'm hoping that in the future this group will help explore, is moving people out of their comfort zone a little bit, but realizing just how simple it is to actually, once it's built, to play around with this stuff.
absolutely. I think that's a great topic for another one of these tugs. When you sent me that, you mentioned that in the email in our correspondence before this meeting, and I immediately wrote it down. I was like, this is a great topic. This is something we all can benefit from. So I know we have just a couple of minutes left, but please feel free. Again, I think I gave everyone ability to use your mic now. So if you want, in the couple of minutes we have left, feel free to come off mute or put in the chat things like we were just talking about. What do you want to get from this group? I want this to be community led. I want all of us to be involved. If you have an idea for a topic or you want to present, please share that with me. Emails, send me a direct message on Slack, or come off mute now if you have something you just want to say. I'll start just for me. I love this networking. I've already met some great people that I would not have otherwise met. Josh, Tammy, all, just to name two right there. So I'm really excited to learn and get ideas and put those to use. So if anyone has any other thoughts on what they want to gain from this, please feel free to share. Yes, Liz said she enjoys seeing the example dashboards, very inspiring since she is new to Tableau. That's awesome. Yeah, it's always cool to see what other people do from a design standpoint. Getting staff to interact with the dashboards. Yes, I think that should be probably our next topic. Matthew mentioned, can we survey group members on the level of Tableau knowledge and skill? Absolutely. There is a poll in Slack actually for this. I will reshare that after this meeting, and you all can take that, and that will just kind of give us all an idea of where all of us stand on Tableau knowledge and skills. And if you are, I'm just going to put some of you on the spot. If you are someone who has years of experience using Tableau, I would love to have you present something. Again, it doesn't have to be anything like mind-blowing. It can just be tips or whatever, things like this. So utilizing Tableau within Salesforce. So like if you use, Brandy, I'm mentioning your question here, like if you're using Salesforce as like your CRM for donor data or things like that. I'm not sure.
Yeah, this is Brandy. We utilize Salesforce. We're actually revamping Salesforce. We utilize Salesforce for our food industry team as well as our programs. We don't use it for fundraising at this time, but since Salesforce owns Tableau now, I think it'd be interesting to look at how we can utilize Tableau within Salesforce, even if we're tying it to series data, to kind of really show at an account level, for whether it's our relationship managers or program coordinators or whatever. Something that I've been noodling on, but I don't have time right now to pull the trigger on it, but just interested if anybody else has been using it or thought about it.
Cool. Yes. I do. Yeah, I think a few food banks are using Salesforce as like a CRM. I've heard, not necessarily from food banks, but just in general, that getting Salesforce data into Tableau is kind of tricky, which is frustrating, I'm sure, because as you mentioned, Salesforce does own Tableau. They purchased them for like $15 billion or something. Massive purchase. They also own Slack, just FYI. So yeah, that's a great question. We looked at using Salesforce as a CRM. I think for us at the time it was cost prohibitive for what we needed it for. So that would be an interesting topic for sure. And all of these can be, please use the Slack group to have these conversations. Feel free to post up that question in Slack. I know we're over time, so if you need to hop off, that's totally fine. But yeah, that's what that Slack channel is for. So again, I just want to thank everybody for being here. Like I said, this is I'm really excited to meet a lot of you and to just share and learn. A lot of you in the chat have mentioned just being able to see other people's dashboards and different charts. It's always cool to see how people choose to visualize the same data. I think that's what's great about this food bank Tableau user group is that we all speak that language. When we talk about food insecurity in pounds and retail, we all know what we're talking about. So we have that knowledge already. So we're already, one or two steps ahead. So we can all just immediately dive into learning. So it's cool to see how other people visualize that same type of data. So cool. Thank you, everybody. Again, if you're interested in being more involved, presenting, being a co-leader, please reach out. And yeah, everybody have a great day and hope to see you in Slack. Thank you.